In a few videos and streams recently, I've mentioned that Slaanesh doesn't have the best anti-large AP, and I'm here to tell you that that's not exactly correct. They've got great AP, although only a little bit of it is specifically anti-large, but today, Coop's going to be rushing his Slaanesh straight into this Tomb Kings, who thankfully brought some big armored construct to help demonstrate my point. The point being that Slaanesh has lots of great AP units. They're not strictly anti-large. They can be very tricky in glass cannon, but like these Bringers of Beguilement have been excellent units for me in a number of situations and are just insanely strong in terms of damage output. Very squishy to any kind of ranged fire, but he's also got Nakari, got exactly the same thing. The Fiends are an interesting choice, a unit that I have been a huge fan of in the past for fighting armored units. Like in early Warhammer 3, I used them against like Soul Grinders and other heavily armored targets. It makes sense for me to bring them against Tomb Kings. I think they would be better than Spawn in this matchup, although Spawns are still probably better in most other matchups, to be honest, right now. But here they will provide some decent elite AP to go after constructs and such. So Forsaken to kill skeletons, Devoted Marauders to do the same, and then out on the side some Furies and Hellstriders to potentially pressure some Ushabti Great Bows. There are no Ushabti Great Bows, but there is a Casket of Souls. We've got some Eyes of the Desert to defend, Ushabti, Arc in the Black, a big Iroh Titan, which is not the best construct, but it is quite decent against Slaanesh, actually. Flaming magic damage, great weapon strength, huge amount of HP, Spirit Leech, and Shem's Burning Gaze bound, of course. And let's get on with it. Slaanesh going to be able to close the distance very quickly. And given the way that their targets are kind of spread out here, the Casket, not going to make the best contact. Great move by Koops to kind of hide the Bringers of Beguilement in the trees. He can then use this next trees to advance and so forth, and hopefully can occupy the Casket of Souls so that it won't get too much damage against those high-value targets. But like here, these Fiends stray into range of the Archers momentarily. Thankfully, the Furies are able to follow up in a hurry and prevent those Fiends from taking too much damage, but the Casket's definitely nasty against these more expensive Slaanesh infantry. Even the quote-unquote lower tier infantry of Slaanesh is relatively expensive, so you definitely don't want them taking too much damage from that Casket. But so far, he's been able to close the gap without paying for it too badly here. Hellstriders also getting up and around, trying to find some gaps, but Nakari definitely needs to get in here, get some work done. And then the Bringers of Beguilement also are going to start their sweep as these missile units do get occupied. Hellstriders get into the Casket, shut it down momentarily. Yeah, it looks like the Fiends are going to collapse as well. Maybe go straight into the Hero Titan or straight into the Casket itself. Yeah, it looks like they actually have an attack order in the Casket. Arcan manages to catch them with a summon. Great job by the Tomb King player there in terms of timing. But it doesn't prevent more Hellstriders from blobbing in here. Getting a nice attack on the Eyes of the Desert. They did get an Elixir of Might from the Necrotech there, juicing up their attack and weapon damage. They should be able to fight back reasonably well, but the Hellstriders still going to be trading crazy cost-effective. Meanwhile, on the front line, Fiends are trading not cost-effective against the summoned skeletons, while Nakari dukes it out with the Hero Titan. In just a pitched straight-up 1v1, Nakari will do decent against the Hero Titan, but it's a risky engagement for sure. Here, though, Hysterical Frenzy being popped on Fiends all the way up to 76 attack. They've got 94 weapon damage, which is still not even as much as Minotaurs, but it's definitely enough they can get in here and get some work done. See the Eyes of the Desert starting to take some significant damage there. Forsaken and Devoted Marauders also collapsing to take out those summoned skeletons. And as I've been focused on the center engagement, the Bringers of Beguilement came around and just ate a unit of Skeleton Archers. They're probably going to eat those Ushabti right now, too. Honestly, all these armored units for the Tomb Kings really don't have the combat stats. Like, maybe the Hero Titan with its 40 melee defense, but even then, so Perfect Musk from the Fiends will debuff that ever so slightly. And it's also taking significant damage despite the Restore. We see there Fate of Buna being used on the Fiends. That's interesting, possibly a little bit overkill. The damage scaling is only going to be at about half efficiency due to their max 12 unit models. I don't totally love that, but at the same time, the balance of power heavily favoring Tomb Kings as they get successive waves of healing and get their free Ushabti summoned now as well in the front line. But looking at things tactically on the battlefield, I mean, Slaanesh still has plenty of infantry alive. Yes, Nakari is taking some extreme damage between the Aero Titans melee output and the magic from Arcan, multiple Spirit Leeches and such. Definitely having a tough time of it, but it looks like he might be able to finish Hero Titan here. Lots of overlapping debuffs were significantly nerfing the stats of the Titan there, but it looks like, yeah, nice slicing shards to finish off some Tomb Guards there. And I don't know why Koops is so far behind on the balance of power. It really doesn't make sense to me at all. Maybe because Nakari's taken so much damage. But the Fiends get in here. They're going to continue to support. The Tomb Guard also try and jump in as a response. But look at this in the back line. Bringers of Beguilement managed to catch up with Arcan here, who has also been surrounded by Hellstriders. And because they have Enrage, like Witch Elves do, this euphoric, not exactly like Witch Elves, but this euphoric Rampage manages to lock him in temporarily, just long enough for Nakari to come over and try and end things. Really nice Shem's Burning Gaze, though, from the Aero Titan. Manages to hit Nakari and just about finishes off his leadership. Will Nakari's leadership be able to hold? It looks like for the time being it is. Another Enrage effect there. The Euphoric still actually on Arcan. He goes down, so there's no more Spirit Leeches on Nakari, and just in time too, Nakari gets a little bit of healing proc from wiping him out, putting him back over 1,000 HP, and that should be enough of a swing. I mean, I think probably Koops had this in the bag anyway, because these Bringers of Beguilement are still so healthy, and we'll see in the late game if they're able to grind down the Aero Titan, but I would imagine in a surround, given their high armor-piercing weapon damage, they would do okay. Might take some damage in response, but yeah, the Ushabti, long-suffering, still alive. Gonna get interrupted, and nice catch too from Koops, not allowing the Bringers of Beguilement to get charged by the Ushabti there. Instead, they're able to still get this great engagement, enrage the Necrotect here. Nakari jumps in, a little bit risky against the Aero Titan, but Acquiescence to debuff its melee defense, so hopefully Nakari can get some hits. See the Hero Titan's getting some hits in return, though, in these pseudo-matched combat animations. Not exactly always, but sometimes. Looks like Nakari is getting the sort of the initiative in many of those attacks, but still loses out on his leadership and falls fairly quickly. And it's going to be a little bit of an issue for Slaanesh, but at the same time, these Bringers, they have good enough leadership as a demonic unit. They are close to unbreakable, not exactly, but they are more or less unbreakable. So as long as they can burst this Aero Titan down quickly enough, should be able to win it. You can see there the Aero Titan goes into crumbling, suffering pretty badly. The Enrage means that none of these units can cycle charge. They would be able to get away anyway. I think the Bringers of Beguilement are literally the same speed as Ushabti. It's kind of crazy, but they end up carrying pretty heavily in the late game there. It's just one of those units, man. Whenever it's on the field, you really got to be aware and make sure you focus resources before it gets to you, because once this thing starts to collapse a wing of your formation, there's no hope of coming back. It's a tactic I've seen and used myself time and again with success as Slaanesh. Koops obviously using it to great effect here. But yeah, the Fiends also end up paying for themselves. Nice to see them have a good performance. And then Nakari, depending on the kit, I'd have to go back and double check, was basically right there though, in terms of what you would want for damage output. So yeah, all of these armor-piercing units perform well, and it does make sense. Relatively tall build from Boojilicious here for the Tomb Kings. The Aero Titan is definitely a bright spot for me. I really like this pick in this particular matchup. A little bit of a meme in many situations, but considering Slaanesh's lack of ranged tools, they're going to have to fight you in melee at some point, and this big burly beast of a construct can definitely punch back very hard. The high combat stats actually do matter quite a bit against Slaanesh, I think, too. And just in general, it's a very nice unit to have. Eyes of the Desert also nice unit to have. They didn't perform great in this particular battle, but the number one thing I'd probably cut for Boojilicious here is just cut the casket and take like more melee, large entity power. Ushabti also did quite well. Tomb Kings were not the best. Maybe you actually just cut this and take more chaff support so your constructs have, infantry to fight on top of for a little bit longer. I'd probably... Maybe you just cut it straight up for the Kepper Guard. I mean, I think the Bringers of Beguilement still just eat them, but with their magic damage, high weapon damage, anti-infantry, in theory, they could hopefully at least, contest against the Bringers of Beguilement. I would actually need to test that for myself and see, but regardless, very fun game. Big thanks to Coop for sending that one in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.